Hey guys, Brent Hull, Wednesday design video. Going back to blocking and tackling the basics of moldings and design. Come join me. Helping a guy out in Colorado, he sends me the sheets of basically molding profiles that are available for his stucco on his outside of his house. This is why it's hard to build a traditional house today. He gets this from his Styrofoam supplier. I can't believe I'm saying that, right? His Styrofoam supplier, because we build great houses with Styrofoam. This is the world we're living with. And I'm going to show you kind of how these little details that we use can make such a big difference. Okay, first of all, what's wrong with this picture? Okay, right? They're showing a column here. There's like 28 things here. I'm going to go down to the 3 of them. It's a straight tube, okay? You know I like emphasis where the column has movement, okay? Where it tapers from the bottom to the top. It goes up a third and then kind of tapers in. So the other thing is just if you're looking at this thing and you don't know and you're the builder, you're like, well, I'll take that, okay? But what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with that? If I grab my chart here, my classical design chart from the ICAA, you'll notice that what do you see here about the capital here, okay? There is a specific orientation of the way the capital looks versus the way this looks. The other thing that happens is, look at this. Look at this shape right here. It's the exact same shape as this shape, okay? So they got the bottom on the top and the top on the bottom. They're using them interchangeably. No, don't do that, okay? It's closest to the bottom of the deal. I'm gonna show you that, but the capital's all messed up. Okay, this is what the capital should look like. There should be a square abacus, okay? The echnus, this piece underneath, is round, so we go in a round column. This is square, this is round. They got this necking detail here with these steps there, those fillets. There's a neck, an astragal molding, then the shaft of the column, okay? So if you look at this, there is no neck here, okay? So the neck of the column's missing. The proportion of the parts here is all messed up. It's not right. The proportion of these parts is not right. So what I did was I drew over top of it what a real column should look like, okay? Oh, isn't that pretty, right? How much better that is? That there is proportion and scale and all the parts are in the right place. There's a reason why, you know, these orders develop and how they come about, right? That if, you know, you go back to the original wood construction, that we think that these temples were originally made of wood, and just the order and the organization and why these parts and pieces are here, it was because they were actually built from real materials. It wasn't Styrofoam that they were cutting out and making work. So when you see a good column and then you see kind of what he's ordering from, you realize that the fight that we have to do in order to get good things happens because in so many places in our building environment, there is misinformation, bad things to order from. If the builder says, or the homeowner says, well, they told me to order a column, and so there I ordered that one. Well, not only are the parts and pieces all wrong, but look at the proportion of this thing. I actually worked it out. That's a 1:4 proportion, okay? Typically, they start about 1:7, 1:8. They go up to 1:10, 1:11, okay? What on tall, thin columns. But this is a squatty, ugly column, okay? It's an ugly base, it's an ugly capital. It's the wrong capital. The parts and pieces aren't there. There's no emphasis, right? There's 8 things that are happening, and when you see a good one, right, you go, oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like, okay? The other thing, if you look at the base of the column, right, and here's the capital and the base, there's a relationship between the torus, the little b, the fillet, the conge, okay, the way the base scoops up into the shaft of the column, and just how pretty the abacus and necking and everything is. So this is what we want. These are the parts and pieces we want. This is what they give us in the catalog. And so as a builder or as a homeowner, you need to be able to go back to the supplier and say, no. Okay, we're not doing that. They, well, what do you want? Okay, well, I want something that's properly proportioned. And if I was going to be fighting for this, I'd probably say, pull out the ICA manual, look at all the parts and pieces that are wrong, look at the shaft of the column that's wrong. I want emphasis in my shaft. I want a relationship about 1 to 8, or depending on whatever you're needing or whatever you're building, that's what I want, okay? I want it architecturally correct. I want it historically accurate. I don't want your interpretation and your ease, right? Because part of the reason they're doing this is because it's easier for them, right? I've already done that profile once. I can just do it again at the top. Right? I'm fighting, okay? I'm fighting for better quality because the manufacturers, the builders, a lot of the craftsmen don't want to do it right, don't want to do it beautifully. And when we do it beautifully, it's better, okay? This was their example of, you know, the front of the thing showing their different moldings, showing their different, the ways things are going together. What's wrong with this picture besides everything? I'm kidding. Not everything's wrong. There's glass in the windows, that's right. I'm sorry, I'm having a fun time with this. Okay, 1, the water table. Okay, what's happening here, okay? Basically, if you look at this house, okay, the water table was designed historically to kick water away from the house. And you'll see it on historic houses. And basically, if you have the plane of the wall here, okay, the water table would sit out, right? Like there, okay, and kick water away from the foundation, okay? What they've done, they basically put a cap, okay, with a molding underneath that goes down, and they're actually kicking in, okay? So their details and stuff are not moving water away. And so this ends up looking kind of funny right there because there is an historic precedent for that. It's not architecturally correct and it's kind of ugly. The columns, we got a round column, the moldings, essentially every part here. And this is where if you're trying to build good, you need to have good examples, what a cornice should look like, what a keystone should look like, what the moldings and the casing should look like. Right now, these are just spiral lines. It's almost like looping you into one of those hypnotized things where there's just so many lines you can't read what's going on and you can't see it. And so I just started quickly drawing over kind of what should be happening here. And what happens is I end up, there's where the water table should be. It should kick in and then we step into the building. So I'm actually pulling everything in based on where it is now. And then when I look at their moldings, basically these were their moldings, okay? And let's just take, this one here. These are all 4-inch moldings. So these were the casings that they were showing going around these windows, okay? Now, the basic structure of a molding and with all classical design is that if you have a door casing or a window casing, it's based on the architrave. So we go back to our capital here, okay? So in the entablature, you have what's called an architrave, a frieze, and a cornice, okay? So our architrave is the thing that spans the opening. That's why these door and window casings are called architraves. And there's a shape to the architrave. And so if this is my back band of my architrave, there's typically a profile there, and then there's a step and a pause, and then another one and maybe a bead down here, okay? But there's this relationship of pausing and then shape, and then pausing and then shape, okay? What that does is that allows you to read the molding. And the reason why these are so busy and the spiral of death there as you go into these things is because they're ill-conceived, okay? And so if this is 4 inches here, what they've drawn is kind of, right? Maybe there's a step there. And you go, well, that's not that terrible. The problem is there is no pause in here. There's shape, and just these small fillets, and from a distance, all you're reading is lines. And this is a language we're trying to communicate. These are moldings we're trying to communicate design ideals, and it's impossible to read really what's going on in there, except that it's busy, except that there's a lot of things going on in there, and we're not allowing things to read. So guys, it goes back to this blocking and tackling that if we want beautiful moldings, we just need to look to the past and see how these things were created. If I'm doing this architrave right here, and if I look at a historic precedent on that thing, typically all it was a flat casing and then a back band in the back, okay? And then my window was out here. So how simple that is versus this bulbous thing, right? That moves around and it's kind of crazy. Going back to the simplification, letting things be read, that flat spot being able, going back to the classical proportions, looking at, you know, what should be the proportion and style versus what they're giving you in these catalogs. And this is the reason you have to fight. Okay guys, so there is a reason why these historical shapes are done the way they are. There is a precedent there, and there's a reason why it's beautiful, right? And so don't go reinventing, trying to create your own molding shapes here. Good design starts with copying the past. I'm Brent Hull, thanks for watching.